Video's recording.
Before we get started with this episode, I'm going to ask that you subscribe to our channel. In order for us to grow, we need subscribers and followers. So I'm going to give you a moment to hit that subscriber button and help us grow our channel. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ListenUp Podcast, and this is Al Neely. And today we have Ayiana Viviana.
Yes.
And she's a Philadelphia-based multidisciplinary artist, writer, curator, and creative facilitator. Say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here.
Appreciate you coming on with us. So there's so many different things I want to talk about. You are one of the things. You're a Hispanic artist.
I am.
So that comes across in your post, in your work, and just your passion for the community. So you guys, when you go to see her social medias, you'll see all of those things. So tell me, what's a neurographic artist? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'll get that question so much. So neurographic art is this way of creating art that sort of invites your suppressed thoughts, emotions to come forward. And the process of neurographic art looks like drawing what appears to be random lines. If you look at a lot of my artwork, they're like bold black lines. And I start every single piece with those lines. And I never know what's going to come out. It's a random, intuitive flow. And then as I study those lines, once the line is complete, which takes about maybe 30 seconds, it's the shortest part of the creative process. But once those lines are created, I look at them and I sort of intuit what it is that my psyche wants me to understand or see. And through that process, I give meaning to not only the piece, but also at times what's happening inside of me. And so that's a little bit of the process of neurographic art. It's a fairly new art genre. I think it was the term neurographic art was coined in 2014. So it's a pretty new style of art.
Okay, that's awesome. You are a published writer, a photographer, and I want to talk to you about some of the things that you actually do. So, but first of all, before we get started, how long have you been, I guess you would be a professional artist. How long have you been, dabbling in that?
Fun fact, I started painting in 2022. So That's very new for me. I would consider maybe 2023 when I started to exhibit in galleries, and I got my first corporate project and worked with mural arts. I would say 2023 was when I became a professional artist, in the sense that I was working with, in a professional capacity. So about 3 years now.
Oh, that's awesome. You had something happen to you very early in your career in terms of a piece that sold, right? You had been painting for 2 years when that major piece sold. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that piece of art?
Yeah. So that piece. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just tell us about the piece of art and how that came about.
Yeah, for sure. So the piece is called Higher for Hire. And the piece was exhibiting at Imperfect Gallery. And then I had a show the following month at No Name Gallery in Chestnut Hill. So I just decided to use that piece for that show as well. And I remember it was priced at $8,800. And I remember telling the gallery owner, I don't know, it's a little high. I don't know if I should price it at that, high of a price point. And she said, well, it's going to be up for 2 months. So leave it at the price that you actually want. And then if it doesn't sell the first month and you want to lower the price, you can.
Mhm.
So I agreed and we moved forward with that. But I got a call from her maybe 2 weeks after the show opened, and she said, hey, what's the story of this piece? Because I have someone here in the gallery who can't stop staring at it. She wants to know what the story behind the piece is. So she was like, can you write something up for me and send it to me? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So the piece is called Hire for Hire because it really is an exploration of how our higher selves are asking us to employ them, right? We a lot of times just operate from like a lower, as human beings, right? Because of the world that we exist in, we operate from like a lower vibration at times. And this piece really was an invitation to like consider the ways of our ancestors, to consider the future that we're leaving behind for our children, like taking all of these things into consideration. And it asks us to operate from our highest selves. And I wrote that up a lot more eloquently than what I just described and sent it over to the gallery owner. And she texted me maybe like 30 minutes later and she was like, she wants it. And I was just like amazed. That was the, highest selling piece of my career at that point. I mean, it still is. I haven't sold anything higher than that amount yet, but it was a beautiful experience. And it was so validating because, I still consider myself like an emerging artist. I'm a new artist. I've not been doing this for, I've only been doing it for about 3.5 years now. And so to be validated in that way, and to have someone recognize the value in what I created, it really confirmed for me that I was exactly where I needed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's awesome. It's amazing. Do you have any artwork at that gallery still?
I don't. The last exhibition I had there was that one, and that was back in January of last year.
Okay, so you're an abstract artist. Is that what you like? Is that the medium you like to?
Yeah, I would consider myself abstract, like abstract neurographic artist. My medium is acrylic. I normally work with acrylic paint. And I dabble with other things here and then. Like I just made a piece that is a collage, and that was very well received when I showcased it.
Okay.
But yeah, abstract artist for sure.
Who would you say your inspiring artists were for what you're doing?
So there was this one artist when I first started to paint, which was born from a really dark place. Like my journey into painting really started from probably the darkest place that I had ever been in my life. And I'll tell the story really quickly, but I was in a place where I just didn't want to be here anymore. And there were these consistent voices in my head that kept telling me that I was problematic and that if I just eliminated myself, there wouldn't be a problem. But a second voice told me to pick up a paintbrush and canvas. I chose to listen to that voice instead, but I didn't really know. I have no formal, still, I'm self-taught. So I have no formal training
Really?
At all in the arts. And I was just like, well, what can I do that feels accessible to me? And prior to that, I had discovered an artist called Queen Amina, and she was the person who sort of introduced me to neurographic art. Our styles are very different because we don't create in the same way, but I kind of used the premise of what I heard her describe neurographic art as, which was just kind of this free-flowing expression. And I said, well, that seems easy enough. Let me try that. And through the colors that I used, through the markings that I made on that very first piece, I began to like tell a story. And then I started to see the framework of how I could use art to tell stories that would connect with people, but that would also help me to sort of pull things out of myself and heal through a lot of the things that I had experienced in my life.
Yes. Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things I like to do is talk about people's life's journey, because it's usually similar. And like you said, you were in a place where it was very dark and you were like thinking, do I have any value? And people don't realize that's fairly common for people to go through. So first of all, has that inspired a lot of your work with the community that you've done? And then two, if it has, can you talk to us about a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I there's so many things. I was a teenage mother. I was a victim of domestic violence. I went through a lot of really challenging things in my life, and I don't think that I, as a younger person, that I ever gave myself the space and the permission to process, a lot of the traumas that I had experienced. So when I started to paint and create, these things began to sort of shape and form the work that I was creating. And I would say the first few years, like maybe the first year and a half of me creating, really was just me creating for myself. It was very cathartic. I needed to pull these things out. But what started to happen was I started to think, well, if I'm sure that I'm not the only one that's experienced these things. And I see how useful and healing this art as a tool has been. And now how can I take this thing and help others to do the same thing? And that's really the basis of like how a lot of the community work that I've done has started, because what I do now, I absolutely do use art as a way of helping people to get in touch with themselves, parts of themselves that they've hidden away, not really wanted to confront. Maybe it's too difficult, maybe it's too heavy. But through art, I always say when I facilitate workshops, I always tell people, we all live with things that we've experienced, and the energy of those things is very real. If we do not give those things somewhere to live outside of our bodies, it will create disease in the body. So for me, when I am putting hands on canvas, when I am putting brush strokes on canvas, that is me giving that energy somewhere else to live. I'm literally transferring it to that canvas so that it doesn't exist in my body and my body can be well. So that is really one of the things that I enjoy the most about where artistry has led me, because I've always been service minded. I really enjoy just helping people and using my own experiences as a framework for, and how I've gotten through them as a framework for how to help others do the same. So art has become that for me in a really, really beautiful way, where it's not just for me, it's for other people as well.
That's awesome. One of the things I've noticed is that you did receive a citation. So let's talk a little bit, since we're talking about the community, let's talk about a little bit of your community work. So you received a citation from the city of Philadelphia.
I did.
And you can go to your IG and see you standing right in the center of City Hall. So it's open to guys if y'all haven't been there. So talk about that. What was that for, and how did it come about?
So the citation was actually for an exhibition that I did in City Hall last September for Hispanic Heritage Month. The theme was from 215 con mucho, mucho amor, which means with lots and lots of love. And all of the artwork that was displayed at that exhibition was showcasing Hispanic artists from Philadelphia who had love stories that related to where they were from, their community. And so the piece that I showed in that exhibition was called El Bloque de Oro, which translates to the block of gold. But there's you're from Philly, so there's on 5th Street, there is a central corridor called El Bloque de Oro. And if you look at the sidewalk, they have these yellow curved lines that go through them. I think it's from 5th and Lehigh to maybe 5th and Indiana, I want to say. And that area is heavily populated by, Puerto Rican, Latin people. And I really wanted to pay homage, honor the culture, my grandparents, all of the things that neighborhood, because I grew up in that neighborhood, and I really wanted to just honor where I come from, what I consider home. And so the artists who were part of that exhibition did receive, citations from the city of Philadelphia. And I was fortunate to be one of the few artists in that exhibition. So it was a really special experience. I still need to frame my citation.
Just sitting in the corner there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you be proud of that. Yeah, I was there a few weeks ago, and I actually went through the neighborhood, and I was just amazed of the amount of murals and just art was down there. And I think when I left, it wasn't like that. It's just, I just thought it was just amazing. But Philadelphia is known for its murals. Yeah. So talk about, since we're talking about the community, talk about the Talcone Community Development Corporation and what you were doing with that.
Yeah, so in 2024, I applied to be the resident artist at the Talcone Lab Community Arts Center. And I was chosen out of, I believe, 36 applicants, but the
How long you've been, I'm sorry to interrupt you. How long have you been painting since from that time?
How long?
Years?
How long had I been painting when I did that?
Yeah.
Not even, probably about a year and a half.
Wow.
So, I've been really fortunate, blessed really in how things have kind of unfolded, which is how I know that like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But to go back to that question, so I had applied to be the resident artist, and it was a 3-month residency at the lab, at the Talcone Lab, and Talcone Lab is under the umbrella of Mural Arts, and they were looking for an artist who could create and design banners that would live along a 1-mile corridor stretch on Torresdale Avenue. And I applied, I had no idea whether I was going to get it or not. But when I got the email that I had been awarded the residency, I was so excited, so grateful. And so then the work began. I started my residency in August. Yeah, it was in August. And what I did essentially was I would go to the lab twice a week, and I would just spend time with the people who frequented the space. The lab, the community, the Talcone Lab is a place where community members can come in. They can access arts programming for free. They have workshops, classes. They teach you how to sew, how to quilt, how to crochet. I mean, almost anything other than pottery that you want to do, collage, paint. Is available, and it's also free, which is really beautiful because there's so much arts programming that comes with a cost attached. And so for community members to be able to come in and not have to worry about where they're going to get their supplies from, how they're going to learn this skill, it's a really beautiful resource. And so I just started to spend time in the lab and get to know, the community members. And then I hosted a few workshops where together with the community, we created the phrases that would live. So the project that I proposed for my residency in the application was I want to create a series of banners that have like calls to action. So something like compliment the next person you see, right? Because I'm really big on just spreading love, being love, and like having people connect with each other, with themselves and with each other. And so the proposal was that I would create my abstract artwork, but above it or on top of it, I would impose language and words that would convey messages that would be calls to action. So we did that. We ended up with the community, we developed 17 different phrases, and we translated them into 14 different languages so that the entire demographic of people who live in that area could see themselves properly reflected in the work, and they could understand and receive the messages, whether it was Vietnamese or, we have Portuguese, we had English and Spanish, of course, we had Creole, we had Italian, French, we had 14 different languages. And so it was such a beautiful project to see the culmination of, because now, anytime I ride by Torresdale Avenue, it's like I'm seeing these banners, I'm seeing the messages. But that was probably one of my first like introductions to working with the community in that way. And it really opened so many doors in a really beautiful way.
Well, you've made it this far. So by now, at its core, ListenUp is about connection. Most people want the same fundamental things: peace of mind, nourishment, shelter, safety, purpose, and the chance to be understood. Through conversations with people from different backgrounds, industries, and lived experiences, ListenUp creates space for listening, learning, and growth. We want to thank you for viewing our content, following us, liking, and commenting. In order for us to continue to grow, we need you to subscribe to our channel. Please take this moment to click on the subscribe button below and help us grow. Thank you. Of the way things are now and just how we're being purposely divided, how important is it that we reach out to other people in the communities that we're living with that may have different ethnic backgrounds and diversity?
I think it's incredibly important. I think it's important for us to understand that we are more alike than we are different. You know,
Right.
our humanity is the in theater there's a thing called like the red thread, which is like the theme that kind of weaves throughout everything that's being done. And I think that our humanity is our red thread. And the more that we understand that what we do to our brother and sister, we do to ourselves, the more that challenges us to treat other people and to interact with people in a way that uplifts them. When I, am angry or rude or insensitive to another human being, I'm really doing that to myself. And so having that mindset for me is really important. I think we need to understand how much we need each other and how, there are differences in our ethnicities and, like our culture, but I think that those differences can be celebrated and appreciated while at the same time, we can look at the thing that unites us, right? Regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, right? And so there can be celebration and acknowledgement and recognition of, your culture and your heritage, but then also understand that regardless of that, we're all one.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think I've taken with me from being raised and growing up in Philadelphia. That it's always, I've had the experience of learning about someone else's culture other than mine, and I've embraced that, and I've carried that with me all my life. So that's excellent for Philly. Okay. And speaking of Philadelphia, there was this past weekend had the Roots concert, right?
Yes.
And Roots Picnic. And that's grown to be a tremendous event every year. You had the opportunity to live paint.
I did.
Tell us about that. Tell us about it.
So earlier this year, I had been talking to someone and I was telling them how I really wanted to be a part of the Roots Picnic. They have this art exhibition every year. And I was like, I really want to be a part of this. And so I kind of just put it out there that I was going to do it, but the time kept getting closer and closer. And I was like, I'm not getting any interest. I didn't know how to, reach out to the right people, or I guess I didn't know the right people to reach out to in order to be a part of it. So I just kind of decided maybe it's just not going to happen this year. But on Thursday, I was at my son's college graduation and I got an email from Mural Arts inviting me to live paint at the Roots Picnic. And so thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. So I was literally watching my son like in line to get his degree, and I got the email and I was like, oh my God. And my daughter's with me and I'm like, look at this. And so I was like, okay, I can't think about this right now, but I'm going to come back to this later. But that was Thursday and they were literally asking us to come the next day, Friday, to set everything up. So it was very last minute, but it felt like this really beautiful moment in the same way that I mentioned earlier with that other piece that sold. It was very affirming for me of whatever I set my mind to and sort of determined that is going to happen for me, even if
Yeah.
it looks like it's not, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the
That's
experience itself was incredible. The Roost Picnic it was actually my first time being there, but it's just so vibrant, and the people everyone is so happy. And I had a lot of really great conversations. I was able to make 2 really beautiful pieces that I'm actually going to be exhibiting next weekend at an art gallery in West Philly. But yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, it sounds like it was very interesting. So I've been trying to get to one, but my schedule just doesn't seem to fall
Yeah.
right at that time of the year. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, you're a photojournalist. Is
You
that
could say that.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What is a photojournalist? And tell us, what is it that it's been most memorable as far as you photographing?
Yeah. I would consider myself I would consider myself a photojournalist, but it's more of a hobby than like a career or something that I get paid for. I do get paid for photography gigs, but the thing is that for me, photography is one of those things that needs to be it needs to flow. I need to be able to have creative control and freedom. And when you photograph events or portraiture, people, there's an expectation. And with that expectation comes pressure that I don't enjoy as a photographer. So for me, my photojournalism really is more about capturing like the beauty in everyday life. And a photojournalist is just someone who sort of documents and tells stories through photography. And so I do that. And a lot of it is just my own personal interpretation. One of the things that I love taking photos of is nature. I'm very connected to everything that is living and alive. And I love being in green spaces and capturing little intricate, nuanced details of things. I think that our world is designed for us to constantly be on the go. And so as a photographer, one of the things that I really enjoy is just slowing down and almost like the art of noticing, this little tiny detail that if you're moving too quickly, you're going to miss it. And through my photography work, I invite people to do the same thing, to take a moment and just slow down, and either notice the world around them and capture it in their own way, or, to engage with the photos that I take and to, slow down enough to appreciate whatever that beauty is. But I think when we pause to appreciate beauty, when we take our time to recognize how many beautiful things there are in the world around us, it enriches our lives. And so I try to be very intentional about that.
Yeah, I'll agree. You also written, you're a published writer, right?
Yeah. So my writing is I've done cultural like journalism. I write for a publication called Brown Style Magazine. And my first time writing with them was back in September of 2024, where they sent me to Trinidad for a few days to do like a press trip. And that was really my first opportunity as a writer. Writing is something that I've been doing since I was a little girl. That's the thing that's been with me for the longest. But a lot of that has just been personal, right? Like journaling, short stories, but nothing that I ever did anything with. It was just for me and to process, because I've always processed a lot of my life through journaling. But in September of 2024, Brown Style asked me to visit Trinidad and to write about it. And I struggled a little bit with like imposter syndrome, like, am I really? But the press company loved it, and I ended up getting more opportunities to cover different events, locally. And so even including the Philadelphia Art Museum, they invited me to cover some events for them as well. I've covered like an exhibition opening as well as their annual artist event. And those were really beautiful opportunities to just write about art and culture in that way. I also wrote for the newsletter of the Village of Arts and Humanities. I was writing stories for their monthly newsletter, and I wrote one about a library here in Philly, in the neighborhood that I grew up in, and the woman who the library was named after. And that was a really fun exploratory project, because I learned a lot about her and her story. She passed away in 2005. I was able to talk to her daughter, and and that library has so much like personal significance to me, because I'm an avid reader, and so yeah, I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of really cool projects with writing, and I'm looking forward to doing more writing, and maybe even this year, one of my goals is to publish something personal that I've been putting together, this manuscript. So we'll see where that goes.
I know you were saying that you had written someplace that you love Trinidad, and the magazine that you're writing for sent you there.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy most about Trinidad?
So the food.
Okay, all right, that's always good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But there was this one place that we went to called the Caroni Bird Sanctuary, and it's this place where the national bird of Trinidad lives in the wild, but there's a family who sort of stewards the land where these birds are. Yeah. And they took us on this boat tour, and we had dinner on the boat. It was such a beautiful experience. But hearing about the guy who took us on the tour was called Lester, and I forget his last name at the moment, but he was telling us the story of how his grandfather was literally killed protecting this land. There were people who really wanted the birds because they were valuable, and there were parts of the birds that they could like sell on the black market. I forget the fullness of the story, but his grandfather was not allowing them to come and poach, and he ended up being killed for it. And so just to know, that family has experienced so much trauma, as a result of stewarding the land, but they're still faithful in doing it, which was just such a beautiful thing to me. I think for a lesser family or lesser person, it would have been like, the stakes for this are too high. Right. I'm going to just step away from this, but it doubled, it made them even more committed to protecting that land. And there was just something so serene and peaceful about being on the water, in the boat, having dinner, watching the birds at sunset. It was the top experience that I had there. Really.
Okay. Awesome. That sounds great. So how can we find you? What platforms are you on?
Mostly Instagram. I'm not really, I have a TikTok, but I'm not really on there. But I'm on Instagram. You can find me on my website. It's AyianaViviana.com. On Instagram, I'm Ayiana Viviana. And it's, my first name is spelled Ayiana, and then Viviana, which is my middle name, is Viviana. And so that.com or on Instagram.
Gotcha. All right. So tell us what exhibits you have coming up. Mm-hmm. And where can we find the information for those exhibits?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have one coming up that opens on June 13th at the Urban Art Gallery. That is going to be, it's the Caribbean's Creative Exhibition. And this is an annual exhibition that just highlights creatives from the Caribbean. And so I'll be representing Puerto Rico. And the opening is on the 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. You can find information on that on my page, or you can go to urbanartgallery.com, I believe, or you can look up Urban Art Gallery online on Instagram. And then I also have an exhibition opening. Well, the artwork is already up, but there is this initiative that Philly is doing for the 250th anniversary that has opened this art space on Market Street. It's on 9th and Market, in between 8th and 9th, and it's called the Love Lab. And so I currently have work up there, but we'll be having an artist talk back and opening reception for my artwork on the 27th of June. And that information, just stay tuned to my Instagram. We haven't actually posted anything, but there will be some information on that, as well as an RSVP. I do have another really, really exciting project that unfortunately I can't talk about yet, but that's coming. It's in the works.
Okay. So I would imagine these galleries, they have websites. So would it be possible to purchase your art, to see able to find it on the websites and then purchase it from there?
I'm not sure if
Okay.
Urban Art Gallery has the work on their website because I haven't even submitted the work to them yet. So
Okay.
perhaps during the month that the work will be exhibiting, it will be, because I know last year there were some links to the website where I believe you could purchase it, but I'm not entirely sure. For the Love Lab, that is an in-person thing. But if anyone is interested in any of the pieces that are in the Love Lab or any other, work, they can always reach out to me either through the contact form on my website or, through DM or email.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming in and not coming in, but coming on and talking with us. So used to doing this video. And I thank you very much. The next time I'm up there, I'm going to go by and see if I can find some of your work.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be somewhere. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right.
All right.
Thank you for following us. Thank you for following us on Listen Up. We'll catch you next time on Listen Up. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'm going to ask you to click on the links below. Follow, subscribe, become part of the conversation. And remember, listen up.